Some stories sound like urban legends, but the man who experienced this swore it truly happened. In the winter of 2014, a college student named Mark moved into a small apartment building in Chicago.
The place was old but cheap, and that was all he cared about at the time. The building had 4 floors and long, narrow hallways. The lights in the corridors flickered sometimes, and the elevator made a strange grinding sound every time it moved.
Mark lived on the 3rd floor. At first, everything seemed normal. The neighbors were quiet, and the building manager barely spoke to anyone. Mark spent most of his evenings studying or playing video games.
But after about 2 weeks, something strange started happening. Every night around 2:15 a.m., Mark would wake up suddenly. At first, he thought it was just insomnia, but then he realized something was waking him.
It was a sound, a faint voice. It sounded like someone whispering in the hallway outside his apartment. The first time he heard it clearly, he got out of bed and opened the door. The hallway was empty.
No footsteps, no doors closing, nothing. He assumed it was someone talking in another apartment. But the next night, the same thing happened. 2:15 a.m. A whispering voice.
This time, it sounded closer. Mark stood in the hallway listening. The whispering seemed to come from the apartment across from his, apartment 3B. But there was one problem. Apartment 3B was empty.
Deep. He had seen the for rent sign on the door since the day he moved in. The next morning, Mark asked the building manager about it. The manager looked confused and said, "Yeah, that place has been empty for months."
Mark told him about the whispering voice. The manager laughed and said it was probably pipes or old ventilation in the walls. Mark tried to believe that explanation, but the sounds kept happening every night.
Exactly at 2:15 a.m. And every night, the whispering seemed clearer. One night, Mark pressed his ear against the door of apartment 3B. What he heard made his stomach turn cold. Someone was speaking inside.
Not whispering randomly. Talking. It sounded like a conversation. But there was only one voice. And the words repeated again and again. "Let me out." Mark stepped away from the door immediately.
The next day, he told the building manager again. This time, the manager didn't laugh. Instead, he looked uncomfortable. After a long pause, he said something strange. "Just ignore it. Old buildings make weird noises."
But that night, something different happened. 2:15 a.m. The whispering started again. Except this time, it wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from inside Mark's apartment, right behind his bedroom wall. The wall that connected to apartment 3B. Mark sat up in bed, completely frozen. The voice was clearer than ever. Slow, desperate. "Let me out." Mark grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. He walked slowly toward the wall. Then, the whispering stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then, something tapped lightly on the wall. 3 knocks. Mark didn't sleep that night. The next morning, he went straight to the building manager and demanded that he open apartment 3B.
The manager refused, but Mark insisted. Eventually, the manager unlocked the door. The apartment was completely empty.
No furniture, no signs of anyone living there. But the air inside felt strange, cold.
And there was a faint smell of something old and metallic. Mark stepped inside carefully. That's when he noticed something on the floor near the wall. Scratch marks. Long, deep scratches across the wooden floorboards, as if someone had dragged something heavy across the room.
But the most disturbing thing was on the wall, right where Mark's bedroom was on the other side. Faint writing, scratched into the paint. The words were barely visible, but they were clear enough to read. "Help me."
The building manager immediately told Mark to leave the apartment. He looked pale now, like he knew something. Mark demanded an explanation. At first, the manager refused to talk, but eventually he admitted the truth.
5 years earlier, a tenant had lived in apartment 3B, a woman named Angela. One night, neighbors reported hearing screaming from her apartment. When police arrived, the apartment was empty. Angela had disappeared. No body was ever found. No suspects were arrested.
The case slowly faded away. But after that night, tenants started reporting strange sounds coming from the apartment. Whispers, scratching, knocking. Many people moved out because of it. That was why the apartment stayed empty. Mark moved out the next day. He never heard the whisper again. But sometimes, late at night, he still wakes up suddenly. Always at the same time, 2:15 a.m. And for a moment, he swears he can still hear the voice. "Let me out."